I am delighted to welcome you to the Arnold Newman Lecture, a conversation between Judith Joy Ross and Peter Barberie. My name is Linnea West, and I work in public programs here at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Judith, we're delighted you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
As many of you know, Judith Joy Ross is an acclaimed photographer, perhaps best known for her portraits. And today we're going to have a chance to look at some of those photographs together with her. Judith has photographed people across the country and exhibited internationally, but in fact, her career in many ways started here in Philadelphia. She graduated with a degree in photography from Moore College of Art in 1968. And so as someone with ties to this city and someone who has photographed many Pennsylvanians over the years, it's special to have her here with us today. We're also joined by our own Peter Barberie. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Peter Barberie is the Brodsky Curator of Photographs at the Alfred Stieglitz Center at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and he'll be framing today's conversation. I'm really looking forward to hearing it myself, and I just have a couple notes before we get started. Judith and Peter are going to talk for about 35 to 40 minutes, and we're saving time at the end for your questions and thoughts. Please share your questions via the Q&A box. It has a helpful upvote feature. So if you see a question you like and you want to hear it answered, click the thumbs up button. It'll go to the top of the queue. And those are the questions I'll read first when we get to Q&A. We do have the chat going and we love hearing from you there. The program is closed captioned and you can click the CC button to turn those on or off. And finally, we are recording today's conversation. And after the program's over, we'll send a follow-up email that has a link to that recording so you can look back at everything we discuss. So all that said, I'm really happy to turn it over to Peter and Judith.
Thank you, Linnea. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see so many of you today, including Judith's fans from near and far. You are now virtually at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And we hope that you will be able to visit us in person at some point in the future, maybe even in 2021. Many people helped make today's program possible, from Linnea and our public programs team to our AV staff and development officers. Thanks to all of them. Further afield, I want to thank Joshua Chuang of the New York Public Library and the staff of the Galerie Thomas Zander in Berlin for their help. Our warmest thanks go to the Arnold Newman Foundation, in particular, Eric and David Newman, for their generous and far-sighted support of public programs in photography. This museum's first photography exhibition ever was a show of portraits by Arnold Newman in 1944. So we are especially proud to host an Arnold Newman Lecture with Judith Joy Ross. For those of us in Philadelphia, Judith is an internationally acclaimed artist with local roots. She was born and raised in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and has lived much of her life in Bethlehem, just a few hours north of here. She came to Philadelphia to study at the Moore College of Art in 1966, before heading to Chicago for graduate work at the Institute of Design. In the early 1980s, Judith began using a large format view camera to make portraits of American people. She worked in series, slowly constructing a body of work that ranges from children in a park to visitors at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, members of Congress, students and teachers in public schools, and protesters against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. There are other series as well. Many of the portraits are anonymous. Most of them touch upon one aspect or another of civic life. I take Judith's whole body of work to be a portrait of our democracy, which seems especially apt for the time we are living in now. Judith's accolades are many, as are her exhibitions and books. I will mention just a few. In 1985, she was a Guggenheim Fellow. In 1995, the Museum of Modern Art published her first book, which I show to you here. It's aptly titled Judith Joy Ross. It has a great picture on the cover. Numerous other titles have followed. I'll show you one more, another favorite of mine, published by the Yale University Art Gallery, Portraits in the Hazleton Public Schools. You have good book covers, Judith. In 2011, Judith was the subject of a large exhibition organized by Die Fotografische Sammlung in Cologne, Germany. And this year, I believe in September, she will enjoy a full-scale retrospective organized by the MAPFRE Foundation in Madrid, Spain, with Carlos Goyenet and Joshua Chuang. And there will be a big new book for that exhibition with an essay by Svetlana Alpers. So Judith, this is a busy year for you, and we are grateful that you made time to talk with us today. Our conversation is going to be somewhat informal, and we're going to dive right in now. And we see up on the screen one of your early photographs, and that brings me to the first question, which I forewarned you about, which is why photography? You came to Moore College to study art, but not necessarily photography. And by the time you left, you had chosen this medium. So we want to hear about why.
Yeah, well, Moore was a neat school, and my parents always supported me as a so-called artist, but they knew that I would never be able to make it in the art world. So I was forced to study art education, and Moore was a great school because you could, first of all, it was very modern and not like Hazleton at all, and lively. And I got to take a photo course, which I don't know how that happened. It changed my life. And this is a picture from my first roll of film. We had 2 1/4. That's kind of a clumsy camera to learn on. And anyway, that's from my first roll of film, and I've never forgotten this picture. And I couldn't explain why. That shape, you would never paint this. You would not go out into the street and find this and paint this, right? I don't think so. So I still don't know what it means, and I don't care. It's really thrilling to me.
The shape of the cardboard box is really compelling.
I don't know why. Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't have to know why. If I knew why, then it wouldn't be compelling, I guess, right? How does that happen? Yeah.
Here's the next photograph you chose, which is also from that period.
Yeah, this is me taking the bus from Philadelphia to Hazleton. And here I am with this soldier sitting opposite. Oh my God. Well, maybe he was one seat up. And I snuck up there and took his picture, not once, but a few times. And then, I mean, I was seriously involved. I just found a cover of a Life magazine that came to my Cherry Street address when I was a student. I was privileged to have a Life magazine subscription, and Larry Burley. I mean, before I even was in college, I was collecting photographs of Vietnam because it was so terrible. And here is I mean, I can't believe how beautiful this man is. And it's so why portraiture? Because I'm always curious. People are always around me, and it helps you. If you didn't have a camera, you wouldn't make. No, I don't know how to explain it. You just notice a lot deeper. You notice things a lot deeper. Then you say, "I'm going to get that." You have to let go of yourself and be kind of weird and walk around in a bus with a camera.
Do you remember if you spoke to this man?
Hell no, I didn't. I snuck. And I also have a picture of him looking out the window. It's very poignant. So the point is, whatever you react to in life, it can become 60,000 times more intensified because you're making an image. The making of the image just amplifies what you see because of the frame and a lot of other reasons I wouldn't be able to explain.
Why don't we jump ahead
Sure.
about a little more than a decade, maybe 15 years. This is your first really well-known series from Urana Park.
Right, rightfully so. Yeah, I struggled for many years to finally make pictures like this. So it took many years. This is with an 8x10. And the reason I'm here is because my father had passed away, and I loved him dearly and missed him a great deal. And I couldn't stand looking at adults because there's pain in so many people's faces. And so I knew to come here to photograph this place where there were children, almost always unaccompanied by adults, just being kids. And this was a breakthrough.
And was this at the beginning of your use of the view camera, just for viewers?
No, I'd used small view cameras. I'd used a 5x7 that someone had given me. I'd used a 5x7 in Europe, and then I got a Deerdorf, which was a really good camera in Europe, and I photographed for some years with 5x7, and then 4x5 Graflexes and 5x7 Graflexes, and then I made them bigger because 5x7 is really hard to look at in this culture. People don't like to look close.
So just for audience members who don't know, when Judith talks about using the 8x10 as she did for this picture, it's 8x10 inches, the camera, and you had to use a tripod, right, Judith?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. And the great thing about it is the camera is so seductive because it's wood and it's beautiful. It's like if you had a wooden vacuum cleaner, you'd probably vacuum more, right? Because it would be like a beautiful thing, right? But no, they make these hideous, never mind. So it's seductive to have a big wooden camera and you put a cloth over your head so you look like an idiot. And so people forget that there's this thing going on in front of them, this weird person with a cloth over their head. It's a good tool to use, I think. And also the people are upside down and backwards, which doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a way of communicating that's different. I don't like pointing a camera at somebody at all.
So it's a slow process. You're obviously talking to these subjects, in this case, these girls with their Pac-Man popsicles.
Yeah, just saying, don't move. Don't move. Don't move, you're fabulous. Don't move. I mean, yeah, don't move. And they didn't. I mean, what a task. They have ice cream. It's melting.
Mm-hmm. I'll go back to that.
Yeah.
This is the same park.
Year. I was looking for why life's worth living, and I found it here. Not that life doesn't get hard. These aren't necessarily happy kids. They might be unhappy because I'm photographing and it takes so long. But I don't think so. Yeah, so those are my first substantial pictures, a series about a place where you could be safe, where life was good as it, not perfect, but good.
So then the next series we're going to talk about is maybe your next big series after that, and it's a very different kind of place.
Yeah.
And it had the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, designed by Maya Lin, I think had just opened maybe a year or so before.
No, I heard it on the radio that they built it, and I said, I'm going. Because I had this unbelievably stupid idea. I wanted to know, I can't remember the question, something big and vague, like, what does life mean to you, or something like that. And I was going to just ask people on the street. And then I realized the question I want to ask is, how do you deal with pain and suffering? I think that was my question. And I didn't have to ask anybody here because that's what they were dealing with. And I think I needed to be there. And I spent the first year making pictures that were only one of them at a time that I think worked. That's not true. There was a lot of kind of good pictures. But the first year I cried all the time. I was very upset. I was also scared all the time of asking people, and I'd say 85% of the people said no. That's pretty appropriate. what's this moron doing with a big camera at this sacred place? I didn't even get that myself. So the second year, I was sweating. I was not crying. I was sweating. And I was seeing stuff on this level. And by this level, I mean, I no longer had ideas that I thought I should work on or do. They were telling me what it was about. And what the Vietnam experience was about was so vast, you couldn't qualify it in any way. That's what these pictures do.
Did you have friends and family who fought in Vietnam?
I have a cousin, Paul, who was in Vietnam, but no, not. He was injured by chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
That I was mourning for all humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I was for the Viet Cong, the Vietnamese on both sides, and the Americans, everybody all at once. I didn't take sides. This is the only person that's actually looking at the memorial. And then the memorial doesn't fit in, it's not in the pictures. It's in the faces of the people in whatever way that it might be.
It seems as though you didn't have any formula. I mean, you just said that you stopped asking questions.
I stopped having stupid ideas about what I should be doing. And I was just looking at what was there. I mean, that's easy enough to say. I don't know how it happens. It's just you work through stuff or you don't.
How many times did you go there, Judith?
I don't recall. It was a long time ago. I went in the summer for several days. I stayed in the Rock Creek Hotel, which no longer exists, and I lived on sardines, and because they're good for you, they taste awful. Then I'd drive down to Constitution Avenue every day and spend the day. And sometimes, for several days. And then I guess I went home and came back, developed the film and came back for the summers. Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, I met a lot of veterans. And they all know stuff. They all know stuff.
Do you remember if this man was a veteran
This
also?
man was not a veteran. This man was not a veteran. He just looks like one. So to tell you how, he happened to be at the memorial, and there were so few Black people at the memorial, and there were so many Black people who died in Vietnam. So what was your question?
Oh, I just asked if you remembered if he was a veteran.
No, he was not. In fact, he has a master's degree in something like English literature from someplace in New Jersey.
You remember these subjects very
because
well.
I got, no, I have releases and I have letters I wrote to people and I sent people prints and I got a thank you from him, and I just recently found that.
Wow.
I wouldn't have remembered that if I hadn't looked at it lately.
How
And
long?
I didn't know that about him when I photographed him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How long would one portrait usually take? 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. In the beginning, I made a terrible mistake of like taking 15 pictures of one person. I thought I was like making a Moy bridge. So these poor bastards who said, yes, I could take their picture. Then I took 15 pictures because I thought if I had them in a row, it would be like a Moy bridge and it would be more reality than it would be wonderful. So these are the kind of wacky ideas. So,
gosh, these are some of the most powerful portraits I've looked at. So it's funny to hear that backstory.
Yeah, there's a lot of backstories. Yeah. I'm sorry. This is Bob Herder. He's astonishing. Yeah, I mean, He doesn't know he represents what he represents. I don't think he knows. Doesn't matter. No. People are unbelievable.
So we're still in Washington.
Yeah. I wasn't done with Washington. This work showed at MoMA, right? And so currently I'm done with the show. I'm done with this work.
You mean the Vietnam veterans work was shown at
showed
MoMA?
it in New Photography,
Right.
back in 1985. And with Seek Berman and Michael Spano and Tony Mendoza. And it was the first New Photography. And then I got a Guggenheim and I decided to go photograph authority figures, which are people I don't get along with very well. And I was going to do it in my own terms. So I went to see who these people were that have done what they've done. And I want to tell you that I couldn't have done it without this. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, this is the Almanac of American Politics that you will see now on the bookshelves of people, mostly on PBS, the NewsHour. You might see this on somebody's bookshelf. This is a dictionary, unbelievable dictionary with everybody's picture, all their stats. It's unreal. The National Journal. And then my friend, Rick Orlowski, who was my attorney and friend, and he told me about that book, which I couldn't have done it without. And then he told me about phone books. Christ, so I have phone books with everybody's, who the press secretary is, blah, 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 all this information. You need all this information. So Rick Orlowski helped me that. And then some person who I don't remember, I met at a party, which is so weird because I don't have party type things, but they said I should arrange a show before I took the pictures. And by the grace of God, I did. And the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts allowed me to arrange a show of portraits of the United States Congress before I made one picture.
Wow.
So that I could include that in my cover letter to them, because what do they care that Judith has a Guggenheim? But they're not my mom and dad. So
do you remember who you had to write to in Congress?
Who did I have to write to do what?
To get permission to go in and start to photograph.
Oh, each one of those people that I chose.
Oh, really? Okay.
I chose for the Almanac. Then I would make appointments with them. And this is like an appointment book, like with a million little, we didn't have typewriters, we didn't have computers then, but we had Post-its. That's weird, isn't it?
I just moved it forward to Gus Yatran's portrait.
Okay, Gus was wonderful. Oh my God, he's so wonderful. Now, you wonder why his eyes are like that. It's because his contacts didn't fit because he'd been up till 12:30 at night voting against Iran-Contra, which was one of the reasons I was there. I was against Iran-Contra. That was our big, horrible scandal then. And guess what he did for a living before being a congressman? He was a heavyweight boxer. And he had a Yatran's ice cream store.
Nice.
So I think of him as a double dip. It's just, he's so sweet. He's so sweet. And see these goofy things that I do in a picture? Like a magazine wouldn't want that. I love goofy things that happen, that normal, ordinary things that happen in pictures. Okay. That's Helen Delick Bentley. She's a Republican from Maryland. Tough as nails. She used a swear word in front of me, which I thought, you go, girl. But I think it was at me, so that wasn't so good. And you could see she's a super hard working class person in a stupid Claiborne dress that they put her in. It didn't fit. I liked her toughness, her rawness.
Were you photographing? You wanted to photograph everybody, right? You were
hell no. Hell no. I did 120 or so people.
Okay.
Before I would have collapsed. No, I didn't want to photograph anybody. I mean, even if I did, I couldn't have.
So were
'cause a
you
lot of
picking
people
people
turn you down.
beforehand? You know,
Huh?
did you know you wanted to meet Helen Delich Bentley, for instance?
No,
Or
I'd look her up in this. So I discovered who people were, and I don't know anything reasonably political about the world. Okay. I would look people up. I would call them, their press secretary, send them that letter saying they would be included in this exhibition for the bicentennial of the United States Constitution that happened to coincide with that year. I mean, kill me. How much luck can you have? Because just because I want to take your picture and put it in this museum, which is America's oldest museum, why should they care? But by the grace of God, it's the bicentennial of the United States Constitution.
right?
So there's a hook.
So it all worked out.
Hello, how often does this
And
stuff happen, right?
for those who don't know, PAFA, the museum that showed this work, that's our neighbor museum just down the parkway from PMA, another great art museum here.
It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's just a gorgeous building. Yeah, so there was this show of these people, and Hiller was one of my favorite people because he had a great suit. Most Congress people look like high school teachers. Excuse me for insulting high school teachers, that they look like Congress. But at any rate, when you got to the Senate, they look like gods, generally.
More money.
Power, money. You know.
Now, it's not just the elected representatives, though. For instance, this woman was an assistant.
Right. I mean, how I could not resist that V. You saw the first photograph of the trash on the street, the V-shaped thing. I don't know what it is, but it was insanely beautiful to me. She was exhausted. She was rumpled. Perfect. She's the administrative assistant to Norman E. Mineta, a Democrat from California. As you can read. Okay.
It looks like you're outdoors in this picture. Is that right?
No, everything is available light.
Okay.
And available light with an 8x10 view camera inside. Hello. I used a special film. I can't remember the name of it off bat. That would, oh my God. This drove me crazy. This is James A. Trafficant. I mean, he was a forceps birth, at least. Okay. I mean, he was a very interesting person. I read about him. He ended up, never mind, I don't think I can tell all these stories, but he is dead. He did die in a tractor accident.
Oh dear.
He was indicted.
I remember that.
Before he was elected. And he said, no, he didn't do it. And he had a great big sign on his wall saying, no bullshit. But that's what he was, because he got indicted in Congress as well. So,
wow.
What a character. And a Democrat like myself. So.
Do you remember much about your interaction with him?
Well, I know he invited me to lunch, but I could have cared less. I was looking at this upside down and backwards and dying at this shape of this hand going into this. Wow. Yeah, he was pleasant. He was very pleasant, And that's it. He was pleasant. He was not. This was William Dickinson, ranking Republican on the Armed Service Committee, which of course I was, Iran-Contra I was upset about. Mm-hmm. He did say he was angry at me because I photographed him with his tie like that in his suede suit. And I thought, well, tough break.
Now, did you send these folks their portraits the way you did with the earlier ones?
No. Only person that got a picture was Bill Gray, congressman from Philadelphia, very elegant Black man. He's the only person that got a picture. I mean, I don't have time for that or whatever. I mean, what would it do? It would go in a drawer somewhere. It would kill me. This is Bennett, a very elegant congressman from Florida, naturally elegant. And look, it's not chaos. It's ordinary life. I don't need to fix it up.
So you really did just work with whatever light was there, fluorescent.
Yes. And I had a 15-minute appointment. Set up the camera, take the pictures and get out. Nobody timed me. The only person that timed me was Kennedy. I mean, I got to flip the film holder around and that time was done. So I can't say for sure I was there for 15 minutes. It could have been longer. Oh my God, Roth, what a sweetie. This is a Republican senator that's like Walter Matthau, right? Like meeting Walter Matthau is like 6'5" or 6". He's very tall, very hard to shoot when you're 5'4". And it's like, is that fluorescent lights and this friendly face, and maybe that's a toupee, I don't know, but a lovely man. Everybody has a Roth IRA now, right?
I hope so.
Thank
you, Senator
Roth.
Roth.
Yeah. That's my first stamp. I love this because it's like a stamp. Oh, it's wonderful.
He looks really uncomfortable, I have to say.
Yeah, the poor guy. Yeah, right. But he's beautiful. He's real. Pat Schroeder, this drove me crazy. This circle down here with a cup and the button and the V. And oh my God. No. Oh no, I'm just showing you Leahy because you haven't seen his face, because he did this recent thing for the impeachment of Trump. And
Right.
you couldn't see his face because he had a mask on, but this is what he looked like, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very elegant. You could see power, right? Maybe you can't. I don't know what power looks like to somebody else. And this is Strom Thurmond, who was not a good person, in my opinion, but he was very seductive. He knew he had a lot of charisma. And I was terrified that I couldn't get a good picture of him. I was so impressed with I think he had his furnishings were like from Versailles. He had it all set up perfect. And that's an incredible face. Don't agree with anything about, love these ears, love it. Love it. That's such a 19th century face. So I didn't react to people because they're Republican or Democrat. Because when you're in front of the camera, you're just wonderful, or you're interesting. It's not. This was not about my political opinion, although I still have one.
It's surprising to me how, these people don't look relaxed, but they seem to be forgetting themselves a little bit. Maybe because, you were this relatively short person with this great big camera. So
who would expect
that sort of settles everything.
I didn't have an entourage. I mean, imagine they're photographed by people who are professional. They come in with a good light.
Yeah.
Somebody doing this, somebody doing that. This was probably strange, I guess, maybe, unexpected. And it was arranged through their press secretary. This is Laurie Snow. She's works for Senator Jake Garn, Republican from, I don't remember where, Utah, someplace. But at any rate, her eyes are so much like this brooch. And she's exhausted. She's tired, or just a beautiful, beautiful portrait, but not something people don't. I don't think anybody would want my portrait of themselves, right? That's a wonderful example of being a person, but it's not beautiful in terms that people want for portraits. I don't know why portraiture, because it's about who we are, but it's not some.
Well, you just said, this is a wonderful picture of being a person. And I guess that's where all of your work settles for me, is that each one is about being a person. For me, being a somewhat public person. I mean, you're photographing people not at home, not intimately, so they have some armor on of sort of how they go out in the world, but you also seem to peel back some of those layers.
Oh, what a sweetie. How'd you like to meet him? Isn't he? He's just so friendly and open. Yeah, and he's the press secretary to Claiborne Pell.
Who's here?
Pell was so exhausted. I thought he looked like the Buddha himself, which I don't know what the Buddha looks like, but he was simply exhausted. And you people out there may have Pell grants. Okay, he's this good guy, exhausted.
So Judith, now we're going to jump a little bit ahead, about a decade ahead.
Oh.
Back to Northeast Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had a grant from Robert Frank in honor of his daughter, Andrea Frank. I got an Andrea Frank Award, and that gave me, by the way, give artists money, then they can work, because it's
Good
really
advice.
hard not to work without money. So that was great. So I went to Northeast Philadelphia, and this is one of the lovely people I met there.
Now, what made you pick Northeast Philadelphia? I'm curious.
I don't recall. Well, because it was Black and not well represented, and I wanted to photograph Black people. And the Lehigh Valley does not have that many Black people. I've also photographed Africans in Paris for a project. Twice I've done that. So I just went there for some time and made a number of portraits of children.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This is I don't think I should say her name. I know her name, but she's just magnificent. She could be the model for the Sphinx.
Now, is this outdoors? It's such bright light.
This is outdoors. This is outdoors. Yeah, so beautiful.
So were you, and in this case, were you? You're not making appointments with these sitters.
No, this place was a place where children were making. Well, I'm not going to describe this place. I'll just keep that. This was people were making paintings and stuff, and there wasn't enough light for me to photograph them. So I asked them to come outside.
Okay.
But all my pictures are outside generally. These are, oh my God, they like three little grandmothers. So lovely. And this was at a place called New Creations, where children were, it was like a little outdoor school. And I had them just hold their books for me. Nobody can do it the same way. It's unbelievable. And I've done many series. I mean, usually everything I do is a series. I've been doing elections since 90 or earlier. Every year there's local elections, and then every once in a while there's federal elections. And I go to the polling booths and photograph. Can't do that anymore. You can't photograph at an election. Can't bring a camera.
Now, were you thinking of your earlier Congress pictures when you did this series and your book protesters?
No, I just thinking unpolitical. I think it's important to vote, and I just that has just been a theme of photographing and voting for a long time. That's my neighbors.
I love this one these are your neighbors?
My neighbors in the back, they're going to vote. I mean, now you can't go to vote. I mean, right?
Well, you said
I couldn't photograph.
As of 2004, you told me you couldn't, or 2010, you couldn't photograph.
Yeah, you can't photograph. So this is earlier than that, but that's my neighbors behind me. They don't know they're in this picture right now. So.
Well, here's one of your Hazleton High School pictures, but it's really just a prompt for us to open up questioning.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Hi, Linnea. Thank you, Judith,
Hi.
for walking us through those. And Linnea, I'll hand it over to you to monitor questions.
Yeah, echoing a big thanks to you both. That was wonderful to hear you speak more about the work. We do have a lot of questions that have come in, and I encourage people out there, if you do have a question you want to ask, now's a good time to put it in the Q&A, or if there's a question in the Q&A that you want to hear answered, now's a good time to give it a thumbs up, and we'll try and get to as many as we can. But Judith, the first question for you is from Geraldine Fisher, and she asks, which photographers influenced you?
Oh, well, Yatran, her biggest of all, and August Sander. Yeah, and Louis Hine.
Mm.
Now, Judith, among those, Atche made very few portraits. So I'm wondering, I mean, I can see why you loved his work, but what was it specifically?
Well, it's just, I don't know the words for it, but I know that I would look through my Atche book before any trip to Washington or anything scary I had to do. It would just reassure me that, yeah, pictures like this, it's vital, period.
Mm-hmm.
I did, believe it or not, you're not going to believe it. I don't even believe it, but Southworth and Hawes.
The great daguerreotype. Boston.
They were my imagined goal, that I was going to go to Washington and somehow make a picture like Southworth and Hawes.
Oh, I think you did.
Absolutely impossible.
You did. No,
No.
They loved natural light too. But with Atche, it's interesting because I think of some of his interiors and other things as being sort of absent portraits. I mean, it's like he's showing you one individual, but just the person isn't there. It's through their belongings.
I could not say why Atche is the most important photographer in the world, at gunpoint. I couldn't tell you. He just is. So, and then August Sander, perfect example. And Hine, yes. I don't talk about photography. You'd have to pay me a lot of money, and I just skip town with it. I don't talk about other photographers. I don't know how to do it.
No, that was great. But we have another question. Paul Anderson asks, do you find it harder to get interesting pictures of people now with everybody fixated on their devices?
No, but I think, I haven't been photographing people the last 3 or 4 years. So, but when those cell phones came out, I remember distinctly approaching some beautiful teenager kids not too far from my house. They could have cared less. They could take a picture in 2 seconds with a cell phone, and they weren't going to put up with me, an old lady with this big wooden box and all this other crap, so that was, but,
Judith, I remember the photographer Mark Cohen, who's a street photographer, talking to me about how, as he went forward in life, as he aged, and his relationship to the world changed, he noticed a big difference in how people perceived him on the street. Did that happen to you too?
Are you kidding? I'm an old lady. It's not appealing to be approached by an old lady for any reason, I think, I don't know. I'm not. I haven't been photographing people. I've been photographing trees, which are just as good as people. I mean, you can even, never mind, trees. And I have other projects that it's not going to be the same as what I'm doing. I think that'll involve people, but not, never mind. I don't want to talk about projects that haven't happened yet.
Okay, well, we have a sort of related question to the one I just asked, and Jess Dugan asked sort of, she likes how you feel this need to capture authenticity as opposed to making a flattering, quote unquote, portrait. Do you feel like people have become more aware of self-presentation through social media and through cell phones, and that it's harder to maybe capture that authenticity now?
I don't know, because I don't know that many people. And like I said, that probably would be a case that, wait, how did she say that again? Are people authentic? No, it's the authenticity comes from your recognition, not from their behavior. If I remember there was a time when kids would want to do gang signs, So if they're doing gang signs, that's fine. If they're in a gang, that's cool. They know what they're doing, but they're just somebody imitating gang signs. That's just somebody not being themselves, or just somebody acting silly. Silly could be wonderful, but I think you should be able to fight whatever that is, that the people, you have to find the person. That's your job.
Right. You're saying that's your job as the photographer.
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
you do it. I don't know how you do it, but if you want to, you could do it.
Yeah.
People aren't on the phone every second, are they? Or take pictures of people on the phone.
Absolutely.
Find out what's going on there.
We have a different line of questioning. So Sam Ewing asks, I'm curious about your decision not to picture the Vietnam Memorial itself in that series. Did you ever try to photograph the memorial?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible pictures. Yeah, terrible pictures. The first thing I did was try to photograph the memorial, which would be a way of avoiding photographing the people. And in my case, somebody can do it, but it's not me. I don't do objects. And so I was there for another reason. What was her question?
Oh, Sam was asking about whether you thought about taking the memorial out, whether you tried to photograph it.
No, and in fact, because I'm making a portrait, and because an 8x10 camera has an incredibly shallow depth of field, you cannot get everything in focus. So you make a choice. And so I'm glad I had that choice, because it was about the people, and there's sometimes hints of the memorial. I mean, I'm sorry, you have to read the title. It says Portraits at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. If you don't read that, you're not going to understand something about these pictures. You might be moved by them, but you won't know why.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a requirement. Read the title, then you see the portrait, then the picture has another meaning. Has a meaning all by itself, doesn't it? But I don't know, that's how it works for me.
Yeah. We have a question from Marjorie Shab, who asks how you would define posing from your subjects, or if you ask your subjects to pose.
I don't ask anyone to pose. I ask them to hold still. Just hold still. And usually with enthusiasm. I said, oh my God, don't move. Duh, that's it. I mean, I don't have conversations with people. I have enthusiasms. Because I really see something, which, by the way, walking around, like going to the grocery store with my mask on, or even if it wasn't, I don't see people. But once I have a camera, then there's something like turned on. Now I'm in seeing mode, and I will see something. Or maybe you're walking along, everyone does this, you're walking along and you notice something, it gets your attention. But if you had a camera, it gets amplified. I forget what you first asked me, and then what I'm saying in a sentence.
Yeah, well,
So
we started by me asking about posing a subject, but I think it's good that
I don't pose anybody.
we don't pose people.
No, just hold still.
So Judith,
Yeah.
are you still using your 8x10 camera when you're working with trees and other subjects?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because frankly, I can't use any other kind of camera. I have too much of a tremor in my hand. I'd be happy to be using a smaller camera, but no, and it's so beautiful anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It is a pain in the ass, but it's also wonderful.
We've had a couple questions asking about some of the practicalities of shooting people and getting releases and permissions, and how you navigate that.
Releases and permissions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is America. You have to have releases and permissions or some. I mean, I don't have too many releases and permissions. I think I have releases from the entire Hazleton Public School, blah, blah, blah. When I photographed in Cleveland, I had to have releases from every individual, but those, I don't feel I have to have anybody's permission.
And just for the audience's general knowledge, as a rule in the US, if you're making photographs in the public realm for art, you don't need to get permission. You do if you're making advertisements,
if you're making
Right.
Commercial money from it, if
Right.
you're making
So-
money from it as a photographer in the art world, that's a miracle. So
Yeah.
nobody's waiting for that.
It's not a very profit heavy line of work, is it, Judith?
No, yeah. No, I mean, at sometimes I got releases. You can't get releases from children. So there was a period of time where I photographed on the street children, and I had no idea that maybe that was inappropriate. And Oprah Winfrey made it really clear. Thank you, Oprah. That changed the culture, I think, when she started talking about, whatever it was, people became very wary of anybody with a camera. She didn't specifically talk about photographers, but that it never occurred to me I have to ask a child's permission to take their picture. And then it did occur to me. And a certain physical period of time, I just don't ever photograph a child without a person's permission.
Yeah. And I am curious, do you ever show a person's name, like, for example, with this photo we have up here? Or for the most part, are they
Adam
anonymous?
Ruski. Yes, no, that's Adam Ruski. He's a Polish-Spanish teacher. I'm half Polish, so I just love this. I mean, what else should he be? This is Hazleton. This is my hometown. I love this picture. No, I don't have his personal signature. I have permission of the school.
But Judith, am I right that the Vietnam Veterans series is maybe the only one where you didn't include names of the portrait subjects? I guess Urana Park didn't either.
I didn't because it's every man or something. You know what I mean? It's, but I don't know how to answer your question. If you could get in trouble for putting somebody's name down.
One thing about the Hazleton pictures, though, like this one, I mean, as one goes through that book, you do get the names of most of the sitters.
I wanted to honor everybody.
It's really great.
I wanted to honor each person as an individual by putting their name there. Yeah.
It works. It's very powerful.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. A different track of questions. We have a question. What did you learn about power taking photographs of elected officials?
That I had some. No, I'm bullshitting, but that was pretty funny. What did I learn about elected officials? Oh, that's
power. Yeah.
Power.
Well, in a sense, you really did have a little bit of power.
I mean, I did have it because I could tell Dick Dickinson with his crooked tie, he wanted to pick out the pictures. And as I closed the door behind me leaving, I said, I do that choosing or something like that, so whoa, Judith, you have power here. He can't stop you. You took his picture. It's too late. I don't know. Power. Oh, that some people have it, some people don't. And what else is new? I just showed that they're human beings, that you can like or dislike people just in spite of you agree with their politics, that we're all human. There was one person who I refused to photograph, and that was Jesse Helms. And I finally had a photographic appointment with him. And it turned out to be on the steps of the Capitol in the back, where he would just be leaving a group of high school students. And I had my camera. You're not going to believe this. There were trees behind the Capitol. You had to have a permit for a tripod. My tripod was hidden in the grass behind the step. And oh my God, I panicked. I just panicked. I couldn't photograph it, and I ran off. Never mind. What was your question?
No, that's a good story.
I should have taken his picture, but I really, really preferred hating this person.
Understandable.
As an easy way out, because I might have made a really good picture of him, but then I wouldn't get to tell this stupid story.
Were you surprised at how happy you were with the Strom Thurmond portrait?
He had me completely seduced by his power. He was photographing two high school students who their parents made them come, right? And they were dulled out of their minds. They were like so bored, and he knew how to hold hands with them and cross his arms over and to hold their hands. And he had this whole spiel down. And then it was my turn. I saw how physically stunning and beautiful this was. And I thought, I cannot screw this up. And just wanted desperately to make a good picture of him with his tiny little head on top of those huge shoulders. And I did manage to do it, but then he handed me a little plastic keychain in a cellophane envelope, which said President Pro Tem on it, and I was grateful. So that tells you how seductively powerful he was, even though he was an awful person, in my opinion, and that of thousands and millions of other people. Okay. So.
Well, somehow we've already been together an hour for this program, so we do need to wrap it up. I might ask just one more question of you, Judith, just about editing. How much editing do you do in the dark room?
In the dark room? I don't do any editing. I have a great big old negative and I lay it on a. What do you mean editing?
The question was just how much editing do you do to your work?
Maybe like how many pictures do you choose to print?
Is fantastic. No, editing. Of course I edit. Of course I edit. How much editing? Well, I've never thought about that. I mean, right now I'm taking pictures. No, I have no answer to that. I mean, you do as much editing as you need.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it means because.
Do you find that the pictures that you like the most change over time? In other words, you know, the Vietnam veterans portraits, do you still love the same ones that you loved back then?
Oh yeah. But guess what? No, I've been forced to do an archive. Oh my God, you want to make someone miserable, make them do an archive. No matter how much help I have, it's just from hell. So, but I have seen a lot of the first year of Vietnam is pretty spectacular. It just doesn't fit in with the distance that is in the pictures that you're familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah, there's more pictures that are good than I thought. I did a good edit. I thought I was a great editor. I didn't show the stuff that you shouldn't see. There's more.
Well, we'll all have to go to Madrid to see see more.
Oh yeah,
in the fall, in September.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just want to thank you both so much. And in the chat, people are saying thank you for such an interesting program and wonderful presentation. And I just echo all of that. It's really been wonderful spending more time with your work. Thank you to the Newman Foundation for enabling us to give this lecture today. And a big thank you to all of you out there who joined us. We had such a great crowd and really loved hearing from you and having all your comments in the chat and your questions out there. But really just a huge thanks again to Peter and Judith. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. And thank you, Judith. It's great to hear you talk about your work.
Thank you.